My husband had an affair while his ex-wife was pregnant, and I'm terrified it will happen to me. Too long did not read. My husband had an affair in his last marriage, and I'm afraid it will happen to me. My husband and I have been together for a few years, and he has always treated me very well. When we started dating, he was upfront about engaging in a long-term affair in his previous marriage while his wife was pregnant. He acknowledged that his actions were terrible, but also said she was horrible to live with and treated him poorly. I had my fears while dating, but ultimately chose to trust him. It really seems like he had grown and attended the necessary therapy, etc. He literally seemed perfect for a couple years, kind, patient, dependable, etc. We now have a baby together and we occasionally bicker, and I find myself terrified that he's going to cheat on me too. He stopped initiating sex while I was pregnant and still doesn't seem particularly interested. When the subject is broached, he chalks it up to being tired, etc. He also becomes angry and defensive when he perceives criticism, which could be my delivery, but I'm not sure. It seems new and didn't happen before we were married. I guess my question is, can cheaters, given the right motivation and therapy, truly change? Or am I screwed? I think some can, but he's defensive, doesn't take criticism, and has distanced himself after you got pregnant, the same situation as his ex. It's easy to give an excuse, well, my ex was horrible and treated me bad, as a way to downplay his actions. There is never an excuse to cheat. If you cheat, you don't love that person and you shouldn't be in a relationship. Take precautions because some men do not change. Him saying he cheated because his ex was horrible to live with is a little concerning. It's almost a subtle threat that his faithfulness is tied to your performance. Just trust your common sense. Does he show any signs? Unaccounted for time? Hides his phone? Repulsed when you touch him? Eager to leave your presence? Just keep your eyes open and trust your instincts. Cheating on his wife while she was pregnant is particularly fucked up. I wouldn't trust him. Girl, come on. He cheated on his pregnant wife, you are now pregnant, he is dodging sex and you found condoms in his car. Do you need that he is repeating his behavior in skywriting? How much bigger do you need the truth before you realize you are living his ex-wife's life? Couples therapy. His being defensive is really unhealthy in any context, and there's no way to tell if you're picking up on signals that he is cheating or if you're just anxious. A counselor can help you both work this out. You are screwed. Cheaters can only provide one response to cheating that could give you hope. I cheated because I was a piece of shit asshole scumbag who only thought of my own pleasure and felt that relationships are bullshit, but I went and got a ton of therapy to get past that. Any excuse, such as the one your husband gives here, means that they really are not reformed and are bound to cheat again. He looked for an excuse to do something he planned on doing anyway, and then blamed the other person for his despicable behavior. You will be on the receiving end of this attitude, sooner or later. If you have been together for a few years, it has already happened. He has just gotten better at hiding it. When you catch him, he will have a similar excuse for you. Don't marry known cheaters. Am I, 24F, pretty much a giant red flag? I saw a post earlier about a guy who wants to be with this girl who's been through a lot, and people were telling him that she's a giant red flag and to give up on her. That there are easier relationships he can get into instead of her complicated situation, that he'd probably end up being hurt by her. Well, that girl and I have a lot in common. No family, mom died and dad is an addict in and out of jail, single mom, baby daddy was abusive and still enjoys ruining my life. To my list you can add that I grew up in foster care and that came with its own trauma, including losing my sister to an abusive family. So how does it all affect my chances at meeting someone and being loved? Is my past too much for someone to ever love me? Does it automatically make me a bad person to be with? I have met men who told me they wanted to be with me but after learning more about my life changed their mind. What can I do to change that so people can at least give me a chance? Having a traumatic past can cause problems in future relationships, but as long as you're working on your issues and communicating clearly, it's not a red flag. The red flags associated with trauma are when people's pain and insecurities lead them to be manipulative, controlling, and abusive of other people. But even if you are doing that, you can get therapy to help you stop. Just because you have trauma doesn't make you a lost cause. Your past doesn't mean a damn thing unless it has made you a bad person. The fact that you're a single mother at 24 with a former partner still around is the biggest problem here. Sorry, but the truth is yes, there's red flags. Most glaring is a abusive baby daddy still ruining your life. Being a single mom will limit your dating pool. Having the baby daddy intruding will further limit who sticks around. Sorry to say, but single mom with a problematic baby daddy would definitely send me running for the hills. Sadly, I don't see how that can be fixed. Trauma is not the issue, it is the way you behave due to it, and that can be worked on in therapy. Your situation is not really like the post you're talking about. In that other post, the girl was actively pregnant and there was no established boundaries, legal role for the baby daddy yet, and the op was being a total white knight weirdo. I'm sure you could find someone. Being a single mom is going to be enough to make you undateable to a large number of otherwise potential partners. Personally, I want to be someone's number one for at least a while. I want to be the most important, most cherished thing in her life, and that is something you can never give to a partner. It's a deal breaker for a lot of people. I'd have to read the post and have way more than top-level info to make a judgment, but baggage and trauma aren't red flags. They definitely have a tendency to require more work to deal with, but your actions are what makes red flags. Not the shit you've had to go through in life. How you deal with other people due to those events can lead to red flags, or they can lead to stronger positive personality traits. Update. I caught my boyfriend's lady best friend shit-talking me at my birthday party. Og post. So, Rita ended up reaching out midweek, apologizing again for what happened on my birthday, and saying that she didn't reach out sooner. She knew I had friends in town over the weekend and wanted to give time to decompress. Our talk started out pretty good, and she was profusely apologetic, for both what she said as well as how she reacted when she got caught, and admitted to being bitchy. She tried to reiterate that everything came from a place of love, caring. Which I kinda don't believe lol, and tried to tell me that she really cares about me and that she didn't mean her words to be malicious. I basically told her that I appreciated the apology, but the whole situation arose from her saying one thing to my face and other things behind my back. That it was a little hard to trust and that I'd need time to get over the whole incident. This was probably vindictive, petty on my end, and I regret how I handled it, but the convo did end up taking a pretty negative turn, and now I'm not totally sure what to do. For context, prior to my birthday, my boyfriend asked if he could go on a trip with Rita and some of her friends to OR that they've been planning for a few months. When he told me the dates, it fell over Valentine's Day and I wasn't totally thrilled. At the time, we talked through it. He told me that he just had never dated someone who really cared about V-Day, but that he'd change the dates of the trip if I wanted. We ended up agreeing to just celebrate V-Day a different day so he could go on the trip. I didn't want to ruin this vacation that has been in the works for a while. Anyway, after the birthday stuff, I told my boyfriend that, given everything that had happened with Rita, I would be extremely hurt if he spent Valentine's Day with her, rather than with me, and he agreed and was totally fine with canceling the trip. Anyway, this was definitely not the appropriate time to bring it up, but during our phone call, I brought up that my boyfriend would not be going on that trip, and lol, I believe I said, over my dead body will he spend Valentine's Day with you, which is admittedly not that chill, mature lol. Rita freaked out, started crying and said that I was being extremely unfair, since apparently the trip meant a lot to her, since my boyfriend cancelled on a similar trip at the last minute last year due to work. She said that I was pitting my boyfriend against her, and that she was going to make sure my boyfriend knew that she'd be very hurt if he doesn't go on this trip with her now. During this, she also kept saying that my boyfriend is her family and brought up that she's closer than close with him. She was there when his dad died. Ultimately, she only stopped crying and got calmer when I told her I didn't want to put my boyfriend in the position of choosing between us, and would probably back down about not wanting him to go on the trip. I honestly was feeling the apology at first, but her getting mad about me expressing discomfort with her trip left a pretty bad taste in my mouth. She was totally fine saying sorry, but as soon as the apology required her actually sacrificing something, she freaked out and threw a tantrum. Plus, it feels manipulative that she got super riled, but as soon as I backed down, the tears stopped flowing. Also, it's absurd that she's acting like I'm being unreasonable by wanting to spend V-Day with my boyfriend, which will be our first V-Day as an official couple, or at least ensuring he's not spending it with someone who actively disrespected me and our relationship the last time I saw them. Plus, I also always thought it was kinda fucked that she planned her big friendship weekend over V-Day anyway. And now with the context of her saying rude things, I'm kinda wondering whether that was intentional. IDK, by the end, we had calmed down. It ended on a fairly open note, where she was just like, Let me know if you and your boyfriend want to get together. B. See, I'd like to. And we sort of left it at that. But yeah, IDK. I feel gross about the situation still, but also guilty for sort of being vindictive about bringing up the trip cancellation before my boyfriend had the opportunity to discuss it with her. Edit. B. See, I'm getting a lot of comments about her being in love with my BF. Rita is a lesbian and has been since she was like 16 and in boarding school. If she is in love with my boyfriend or interested in men, that would be a pretty radical shift from how she's presented herself over the last decade and a half, which can happen, but feels unlikely. She's currently dating, hooking up with multiple women, and got out of a multi-year relationship with a woman that she lived with like 8 or 9 months ago. Talk to your BF. Tell him how you felt about the apology and why. Tell him you brought up the trip and how you kinda feel bad about it. Just tell him everything so he knows your side. Rita sounds jealous of you. She's always going to be a problem in your relationship. Elmau, you're letting these people gaslight you. You literally do not owe this girl a single bit of kindness. I just read both posts and in neither, at any point, did Rita or the other girl seem to be keeping your BF's best interests in mind. Their actions were selfish at best. Rita is a walking red flag. Taking your boyfriend to a trip specifically on Valentine's out of any other day? Using your boyfriend's father's death to make something about her? Forgive my terrible assumption, but it really seems like she wants to make you miserable as long as you're with him out of sheer pettiness. Rita wants him. She obviously does not respect you. There is no goodwill in this whatsoever. Were you not invited on the trip? That's weird. Why is your boyfriend okay with his friends treating you like this? Not good friends to you or him. This is turning out to be a long, protracted soap opera nonsense. This non-issue should and could have been solved by your alleged boyfriend if he'd simply set boundaries and call them out for shit-talking you. You've gone as far as even allow her to have an opinion on your plans for Valentine's Day. Now there's going to be another conversation about this vacation blah blah. Stop being a groveling doormat as if your relationship is dependent of these bitches' acceptance. Geez. Update. My partner dislikes my eldest child and it makes me hate him. Prior post here. So he finally left for good. His family won't let him come back because they deem it to be a toxic relationship with both of us at fault. The shit show unfolded gradually since my last post, and right until the end he still refused to apologize for calling my kids names, because he felt he shouldn't have to. He said his relationship with them was fine, and tried interrogating my youngest about why she didn't like him. She was understandably reluctant at first but honest, and ultimately said that there were lots of things about him that she didn't like, but couldn't find the words to explain it. He never bothered asking my eldest, and he never sat down with either of them to discuss his relationship with them. He made out like unless I had specific examples of everything he had done wrong with my kids, it was all bullshit and he had never done anything wrong to them to make them dislike him. About a week before he left, he gave me a half-hearted apology because I told him I didn't feel like I could have sex with him anymore after everything that had gone on. He only apologized because he wanted sex and thought that he could convince me to give it to him if he did that. When that didn't work, he threw a tantrum. He told his family that he was afraid to talk to me about our problems, because I always turned it around on him and refused to accept any blame. He told me that I should have approached him to discuss the issues, but every time we did discuss the issues it was because he wanted sex. I was told by his family that I should have met him halfway with my boundaries and I should have abided by his. He then told his family that he was never allowed to tell my kids to do anything, when in actual reality I told him that he was welcome to as long as he approached it in an agreeable manner. He dismissed my views on parenting as bullshit, and since we weren't on the same page with our views, I wasn't comfortable with his approach. I let him try things his way on occasion, but it didn't work, which of course was my fault. He basically got everything he wanted. He never put any boundaries in place except for asking me not to talk to other men. He once stopped me from going to a girls' night out with a friend because our relationship wasn't strong enough, as if I had some kind of track record of being unfaithful. He also made me promise at the beginning that we were not allowed to discuss our relationship with friends or family. I did break that promise when his behavior was becoming intolerable, and he was mad as hell when I did, but I told him he was welcome to discuss our relationship with his friends as well. I never cheated or stayed, rarely talked to any other men because of him, but constantly endured his jokes about just about every man I ever met wanting to sleep with me. Every time we went out he told me that men were staring at me, and if my clothes showed too much cleavage he'd tell me I wasn't allowed to bend down until we got home. He also talked about applying for a job at my workplace so we could work together. He told me his family thought I was manipulative, and he told me that I was the reason my ex was so abusive multiple times. He had me second-guessing myself for a while, hence my prior post. He made more threats on his way out, sending me messages saying that he would drag me through court, etc. And demanded access to the house we owned together as it was his right. I told him if he is moving out and removing his belongings then he has no reason to access the house anymore. He still told me he had a right to have access to the house, so I told him I'd be pursuing a restraining order. He backed off after this, but I've been put on notice if I pursue a restraining order there will be lawyers involved. I'm sure if he doesn't get his way this will be the case regardless. I've decided to stay single for the foreseeable future. Though my kids have asked me if I'd consider dating other men I've been involved with in the past, I've explained that it's just not an option. I know they want me to be happy and I think I'm happiest alone. We have ongoing counseling and support and we are all relieved that he's finally gone. I just wanted to thank everyone who helped me with my last post. I needed reassurance to be able to break the stranglehold. Too long did not read. Abusive ex is gone, continued to be abusive on the way out. His family dismissed the whole thing as both of us at fault because I should have done better. Congratulations. It's amazing sometimes how hard it is to recognize this behavior and get out of an obviously bad situation. I was depressed for some time after I divorced my ex thinking how couldn't I have done it earlier. But the reality is it's really difficult to do what you did. Eventually I learned what I did was good and right and I have nothing to be ashamed or embarrassed about. So be proud. Don't let anything detract from it. Keep the momentum going and take care of those kids. I'm so happy for you. Talk to a lawyer now. Don't wait for him to start shit. You need to start seeing a therapist to figure out why you're attracting and allowing abusive men into your life and your children's lives. I'm glad he's gone, good job with that. But it shouldn't have gotten to the place it did. And it's your job as a parent to strive to better yourself for your kids. So therapy is the best first step. You should definitely get that restraining order. This dude is not stable and you've got 2 young girls to be concerned about. Definitely stay single for a while and work on yourself because it seems you are drawn to the same type of dudes and that's definitely not healthy. He's gone. Now your kids can feel safe. Have you considered getting the girls therapy, just in case? I'm happy for you and your kids. Now time for healing and tightening your bond with them even more. Well done standing your ground for both you and your children. Smiling face. I couldn't even read all of this just like I couldn't even read all of the first one. You need therapy. Serious, intensive therapy. The idea that you let someone call your children retarded and you didn't immediately pack their bags and kick their ass out of the house is unconscionable. The fact that you were entertaining his family contacting you in any way and listening to anything that they have to say and giving it any space in your head is absurd. You have let this man abuse your children. Full stop. And can we please stop calling people like this partners? This person was not a partner. A partner is not a dickhead who abuses your kids. Please visit and find a therapist to figure out why you keep ending up in abusive relationships.